my name is Ashley, this is Faithful Rattos, and welcome or welcome back. So as you can tell from the title of this video is going to be reasons why I think you shouldn't get rats. Now, I think rats are an amazing pet, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have a channel like this. I really enjoy being a rat keeper. I think rats are a really great pet for me. However, they are not a great pet for everybody. And I don't think people should just only see the positive sides of keeping a certain animal. They should see the cons, the negative sides as well, so they can make sure that they can deal with and handle those negative sides, but also that it's the right pet for them. Because there's nothing worse than thinking that a pet is for you and doing all the research and buying all of the things and bringing the pet home, and then a couple of weeks, a couple of months down the line realising it's not a pet for you, and then you have to rehome the animal, which is, sorry, somebody called Robert Donald wants to send me a message on Instagram. I have compiled a list of 10 things, of 10 reasons why rats might not be a great pet for you, and I'll let you guys know them and explain why I think this is a reason. The first reason why I think you shouldn't get rats is if you don't have a rat savvy vet nearby. If you are not 100% sure that there is a vet nearby to you that will handle rats properly and know what they're doing and is capable of treating the variety of rat illnesses and issues that may come up, maybe rats aren't the pet for you. If you cannot find adequate vet care nearby or within a nearby range or in a place where you can get to, then don't get rats. Don't get a pet if you cannot actually look after them, and that includes vet care. And if you cannot find a vet who will adequately look after rats, who is rat savvy and knows what they're talking about, then please don't get rats. And the next one goes along with that. I don't think you should get rats if you can't afford the expensive vet bills. Unlike cats and dogs, insurance doesn't typically doesn't typically end up being worthwhile for rats, but they can and they do rack up expensive vet bills, especially considering their lifespans are only 2 years old, so you start to get those old age health problems a lot sooner than other animals. Plus, you are having groups of them. You don't just have one rat, so you have multiple rats, and that's multiple chances of having an illness or an injury or a reason to go to the vet. And if you cannot afford vet bills for any pet, you should not have them. And that goes for rats as well. If you cannot afford the vet bills, if you cannot afford, or you don't have the money saved up, or you don't have family members or friends who can help you out, do not get rats. The third one is kind of connected to something that I just mentioned there. The third reason is if you can't handle grief very often. As I mentioned, rats only really live to 2.5, if you're lucky, years old, sometimes a little bit longer. But rats do die, and because you have a group of them, they die often. And that grief is hard. And if you know you're the type of person who wouldn't be able to handle repetitive loss, don't get rats. They are not the pet for you. I would go with something that is a bit longer living, maybe guinea pigs or rabbits. But rats, their lifespan is so short, and because you're keeping a lot of them and you're having a rolling group of them, the death feels almost constant sometimes, especially if you have a medium to large size group like I do. So a group of around 10, 8 to 12, that sort of group, or even obviously bigger. The death is pretty much constant. And if you can't handle that, if that's something that you are not equipped to deal with for whatever reason, rats are not the pet for you. A lot of people see all the positives and how adorable rats are and how intelligent they are and all of these things. But if you cannot handle the repetitive and constant loss that comes with rodents like rats and mice and hamsters, don't get them. So another reason why I think you shouldn't get rats is if you don't think you can handle the stress of difficult group dynamics. This can happen with bucks and with does, and it can be really complex. You could have a rat that needs neutered and it's a case of hormonal aggression, or there could just be rats that just for whatever reason don't get along with each other, and you have to split up groups and rearrange them and do intros and all of that stuff, and that can be pretty tricky if you're not ready for that, if that's not something you are equipped to handle. If you cannot handle the having multiple cages around the house and splitting rats up and intros and trying that again and rejigging and all of that stuff, if you cannot handle the difficult group dynamics, or in general just the possibility that they might injure each other, rats are not a pet for you, and maybe a solitary animal is a pet for you. Another reason why I don't think you should get pet rats is if you can't handle the stigma that comes with rats. I think it sounds a little bit cliche, but rats are disliked, putting it lightly, in general by the public, and sometimes it can be quite difficult when you're grieving a loss, or you're trying to express to friends and family or colleagues or whatever about how much you love your pet, and they only see them as the vermin that they're portrayed to be. That can be quite tough for a lot of people. And if there isn't anybody else in your life that appreciates rats for the great animals that they are, then it can be really difficult, and it can be really isolating to be the only one who appreciates them. And I think for a lot of pets this isn't true. Most people think most pets are cute even if they wouldn't have that themselves. But what comes along with having rats is the stigma that rats carry around with them, and I think maybe reptile people can understand this, especially people who keep snakes. It's a really difficult thing sometimes to manage when there's nobody in your life you can talk to about how amazing your pet is, if there's this giant stigma around it. And if that is something that you don't think you can deal with, then please don't get rats. It won't be a nice experience. So the next reason why I think you shouldn't get rats is if you can't keep up with the cleaning and the maintenance and the day-to-day things that they need. Now, I don't think this disqualifies you if you need help to do that. If you need to have somebody else to help you come in and clean your cages or feed your rats or anything like that, I don't think that's a problem. But if there is nobody there that can help you and you can't do it yourself, your pets are going to suffer. So really think it through. If you are somebody who maybe struggles with chronic illness or flare-ups or mental health flare-ups, if that's something that you experience, you need to make sure there's a backup in place, so that if you cannot look after them, that somebody else can. And I don't think it's wrong to say that. I think we need to be pragmatic when we're thinking about keeping pets. Our limitations shouldn't be a limitation on their quality of life. And if you can't have help to mitigate those limitations, then I don't think rats are the pet for you. So another reason why I don't think you should get rats is if you cannot commit long term to keeping rats. So a lot of people think, oh, they only live 2 years, so after 2 years, that's it. But that's not really how keeping rats works. Because they're a group animal and they constantly require social company, even when they get older, there is a constant need to keep adding new rats as the group ages and as rats pass away. And as you can see, that isn't a short-term commitment. If you want a short-term commitment and you want a pet that will only last you a couple of months or a couple of years, then you need to pick something else. If you want a pet that lasts a couple of months, try some inverts. If you want a pet that's fluffy as well, like rats, and you only want it to last a couple of years, then get something like a hamster. Get a solitary animal that doesn't have this additional commitment to it. Rats are a long-term commitment, even if they have a short lifespan, and I don't think a lot of people quite understand what they're getting into when they get rats. And you need to be aware and able to handle the fact that you're going to have to replace rats and keep that commitment going. And if you want to stop owning rats, then the only really ethical way, in my opinion, to stop owning rats, unless they all die at once, which is very rare, is to be selfless enough to give up the last 2 rats to somebody else who has a group. There's not really another ethical way to stop keeping rats. And if you cannot commit to that long-term commitment, then rats aren't for you, and please don't get them as a pet. So the next reason is a little bit conditional, but my next reason is if you can't sleep in the same room as noise. A lot of people do keep rats in their bedrooms. We don't. We keep them in our living room, so it's not a worry for us. But if you have trouble sleeping with noise or noises, then really I don't think many pets are for you. But rats and other animals that are crepuscular or nocturnal probably aren't the pet for you, because they will be making noise when you're trying to sleep and you won't be able to get very much sleep. The penultimate reason you shouldn't get rats is if you are not allowed to have pets. Whether that is because of where you live, the landlord or the building association or the building owner or whoever it is says that you're not allowed to have pets. Do not get pets. I see a lot of people trying to sneak around this and getting pets when they're legally not allowed to. However, I've seen time and time and time again online this going wrong for people, where they find out, and then where are the animals supposed to go? Then you have to give up your animal and you have to try and find somewhere they can go, and it's just a whole malarkey. And if you're a child and you're still living at home with your parents, or you live with other family members, if everybody else is not on board with you getting a pet, do not get that pet. Do not bring that pet into an environment where it's not welcome. It's not fair to the pet, it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the other people. If you're a child, don't get in a pet without your parents' permission, because legally they will be the owners, you will not be the owners, and it will be their responsibility to look after the pet. And as I mentioned, when it comes to landlords or building owners, parents can and do force children to get rid of their pets. And if you have taken that animal into that situation when you know that you don't have permission to keep it, then that's on you. That whole experience is on you. And the last reason why I don't think you should get pet rats is if you like spontaneous travel. Because unlike a cat or a dog that's relatively easy to find somebody to look after, rats being the specialty pet that they are, it's a lot harder to find somebody who will look after them, and a lot harder and near impossible to find someone to look after them at very short notice. So if you're a fan of spontaneous travel and you don't have somebody who can, at the drop of a hat, look after your rats, do not get rats, because you will not be able to do that spontaneous travel, because they need to be looked after. They need to be looked after, they need to be checked on at least once a day, and if you don't have somebody to look after them at short notice, then you can't go on your spontaneous trip. And yeah, so there are 10 reasons why I think you shouldn't get rats. Now, I think rats are a wonderful pet, as everybody knows. I think they're a wonderful pet for me, and I really enjoy keeping rats. However, if any of these circumstances apply to you and your life right now, just wait. I promise you it will be worth it, and it'll be much less stress when you can deal with these challenges. If you would like, I'll make a video 10 reasons why you should get pet rats, and that'll be a little bit more cheerful. But I do think that we have to responsibly and pragmatically think about whether certain pets are right for us in our lifestyle, and sometimes they just aren't. And we need to come to terms with that. And I see a lot of people rehoming rats because they haven't thought about whether they actually would fit into their lifestyle. And if they don't fit into your lifestyle, then just don't get. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, please do stick around and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Faithful Rattos. I'm over there. I post pictures daily and post on my story daily, and there's always right content over there. It's really tricky now, I think, to keep up with my channel since I started my job. Obviously, it's the summer holidays now, so I have a little bit more time, but I'm very busy this holidays. I've got a couple of exciting trips coming up and a couple of exciting things coming up, so I'm pretty busy. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to have sort of videos every single week, but I'm going to try. I'll try. But when I get back into my job in September, once school restarts, I'm not sure how often I'll be able to post, but I will try to keep it pretty regularly. Okay, thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you later. Bye!